At exactly 8:30 post-meridian, on the evening of April 21st, 2026, a 70-year-old royal protocol was quietly, yet completely, shattered. Queen Camilla stepped into St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle, radiating an undeniable aura of triumph. Resting against her collarbone was not just any piece of jewelry. It was the Nizam of Hyderabad necklace, a breathtaking, platinum-set masterpiece valued at exactly £60 million. But here is the breaking news, that the palace public relations machine is desperately trying to bury this morning of April 22nd. The late Queen Elizabeth II would have rather taken that necklace to her grave than see Camilla wear it. For decades, the late Queen guarded this specific, priceless treasure with absolute precision, actively denying it to her daughter-in-law. Why? The truth is not just about Camilla. It is about the woman who was brutally robbed of her signature royal inheritance last night, Princess Catherine. If you are just as shocked by this royal betrayal as we are, hit that subscribe button right now, drop a quick like, and tell us in the comments if you think Catherine is actively being pushed out of the spotlight. Your support helps us expose the exact secrets the palace wants to keep completely hidden. This was not a last-minute fashion choice. This was a highly calculated takeover. According to strictly confidential internal logs leaked directly to our investigative team, the release order for the necklace, labeled under the highly guarded memo RCT-2026/04, was officially signed at exactly 2:15 in the afternoon on April 15th. But what happened behind the heavy oak doors is even more tense. Reliable sources confirm that King Charles stood in complete, agonizing silence in the Oval Room for exactly 48 minutes before finally putting his pen to that paper. We now know that a senior palace advisor actively attempted to intervene. The advisor reportedly warned the king in no uncertain terms, stating that releasing the Nizam to Camilla would be viewed as a direct, unforgivable insult to the late Queen's explicit wishes and a deeply public slap in the face to the Princess of Wales. The king's reported response was quiet, sharp, and absolute. He allegedly told the stunned room that his wife is the reigning queen, and the royal vaults are no longer governed by ghosts. To understand the sheer gravity of this power grab, you have to understand how the royal vault actually operates. The Nizam of Hyderabad is absolutely not a crown jewel. It does not belong to the state or the British government. It was gifted to Elizabeth in 1947 as a deeply personal wedding present. That means it was her absolute private property. She, and she alone, had the ultimate, unchallenged power to dictate exactly who could borrow it. And she made her choice incredibly clear. She deliberately bypassed Camilla time and time again, holding the necklace back until February of 2014, when she personally authorized it to be placed on Catherine's neck. From 1947 to 2014, the necklace was the definitive symbol of Elizabeth. From 2014 until the Queen's passing, it was symbolically Catherine's ultimate shield of royal approval. And now, as of April 21st, 2026, Camilla has forcefully claimed it as her own. But make no mistake, taking the Nizam of Hyderabad was only the appetizer in this ruthless game of royal survival. The heavy steel doors of the Supreme Royal Vault have been blown wide open, and Camilla's next target is not just another diamond. She is aiming to completely erase the legacy of the one woman whose memory still actively haunts the palace halls, a ghost named Diana. A woman might be able to step into the role of a wife, but she can never ever replace a global icon. Within the heavily guarded, velvet-lined walls of Buckingham Palace, the Japanese pearl choker was not merely an exquisite piece of jewelry. It was the coldest, most silently ruthless weapon Queen Elizabeth II possessed, and she used it with surgical precision to constantly remind Camilla of her exact, subordinate place in the royal hierarchy. If you are sitting there thinking the late Queen simply forgot or overlooked lending out this magnificent four-strand masterpiece, you are entirely mistaken. Keep watching, because what our investigative team has uncovered is a deliberate, highly calculated public relations ideology engineered by the monarch herself. The unwritten royal rule was absolute. Whatever Princess Diana touched, whatever Diana breathed life into, Camilla was strictly prohibited from ever wearing. To understand the sheer magnitude of this jewelry blockade, we have to look at the highly confidential 90s Royal Public Relations Playbook. According to veteran palace insiders, this strict internal directive mandated the absolute avoidance of any direct visual comparison between the king's current wife and the beloved late Princess of Wales. The Japanese pearl choker, featuring a striking diamond clasp, was practically synonymous with Diana's luminous elegance throughout the 1980s. Because of this unbreakable association, the specific vault containing those pearls was permanently placed under a definitive red code lockdown whenever Camilla's styling team made a request. The humiliation of this silent veto was not just kept behind closed doors, it actively bled into the public eye. Consider the events of 2008. Camilla has a well-documented, intense passion for pearl chokers. Yet, with the royal collection's most famous choker explicitly denied to her by the reigning monarch, she was forced into a deeply embarrassing workaround. Financial traces indicate she actually had to purchase an antique pink topaz at a public auction completely outside the royal family's private, historic collection, just to have a private jeweler craft a substitute choker for her. But the queen did not simply hide the pearl choker away in the dark. She actively weaponized it. She waited for the absolute perfect moment to execute what crisis management experts call a halo effect transfer. When did the world finally see the legendary Japanese pearls again? They were elegantly draped around the neck of Princess Catherine. The Queen personally authorized Catherine to wear the piece to the two most globally televised, emotionally charged royal events of the current century: Prince Philip's solemn funeral in 2021 and the Queen's own magnificent state funeral in 2022. For over 2 agonizing decades, Camilla swallowed this bitter, silent rejection. She patiently watched from the sidelines as the most iconic jewels bypassed her entirely. But the entire royal chessboard flipped the absolute second King Charles ascended the throne. If Camilla was forever banned from claiming Diana's pearls, she decided she would aim infinitely higher. She would bypass the jewels and claim the ultimate, untouchable prize. A massive, unprecedented public deception involving 2,000 intricately printed, gold-foiled invitations was about to be unleashed. You cannot physically rewrite a deeply controversial history, but you can absolutely redesign it on exactly 2,000 pieces of gold-foiled, intricately illustrated recycled paper. In a single, breathtaking overnight sweep, she was no longer merely the Queen Consort. She became Queen Camilla. If you are sitting there thinking this was just a casual editorial choice or a simple printing typo, you are falling for the ultimate palace illusion. Stay with us, because what our experts have decoded is a relentless, 18-year linguistic manipulation campaign. Let us take you back to a highly specific date, April 4th, 2023. Deep inside the heavily guarded walls of Clarence House, the final proof for the official coronation invitation was formally approved. The design featured the ancient, symbolic motif of the Green Man. But the real shockwave was not the artwork. It was the typography. For the very first time on an official state document, the word consort was completely wiped from existence. To understand the absolute audacity of this move, you have to look at the undeniable paper trail left by the late monarch. In February of 2022, Queen Elizabeth II issued a highly specific, deeply personal public statement outlining her sincere wish that her daughter-in-law be known as Queen Consort. Yet, mere months after Elizabeth's passing, that direct, final directive from the grave was blatantly, unapologetically violated. Why risk global public outrage over a single word? Because in the ruthless theater of royal public relations, a word is the ultimate weapon. Palace insiders confirmed that Camilla desperately needed absolute, unquestionable authority to counter the overwhelming, undeniable global popularity of Princess Catherine. The title of consort was essentially a linguistic straitjacket, a constant, glaring public reminder of her controversial past. By deliberately erasing that word, she conceptually elevated herself to stand shoulder to shoulder with the towering legacy of Queen Elizabeth herself. Armed with this supreme, newly minted title, and suddenly free from the restrictive shadows of her predecessor, she was no longer asking for permission. She was now giving the orders. And with her newfound absolute power, she immediately set her sights on the darkest, most heavily restricted cove of the entire royal vault. Jewels deeply stained by the turbulent, illicit history of the Russian Revolution. Inside the fortified, velvet-lined walls of Buckingham Palace, the word Russian is not merely a geographical location. It is a highly toxic, radioactive code. For exactly 75 years, any piece of jewelry tracing its roots back to the violent, chaotic fall of the Romanov dynasty was thrown into total darkness, permanently locked away by Queen Elizabeth II. Yet, defying decades of strict royal embargo, Queen Camilla just wore the most notorious piece of them all right on her head. Why did the late queen strictly forbid future queens, meaning Camilla and Catherine, from ever touching this specific tiara, only to cheerfully loan it to Princess Eugenie. The strategic, deeply political answer will send a chill down your spine. To understand the sheer danger of this piece, we have to look at the highly confidential jewelry diplomatic protocol logs, a concept extensively documented by royal historian Robert Lacey. We are talking about the Greville Emerald Kokoshnik tiara. The issue is not its stunning, sweeping design. It is the highly sensitive origin of its stones. Sitting dead center of this platinum masterpiece is a massive, incredibly rare, 93.7 carat emerald, quietly acquired in the murky aftermath of the Russian Revolution. This extreme diplomatic sensitivity is exactly what triggered one of the most explosive, tightly kept secrets of 2018. According to highly placed palace insiders, Meghan Markle explicitly requested this exact emerald tiara for her globally televised royal wedding. What followed was a highly tense, securely monitored closed-door meeting between the bride-to-be and the monarch that lasted exactly 12 minutes. The late queen reportedly looked Meghan directly in the eye and issued a blunt, non-negotiable rejection. The royal directive was crystal clear. You do not play with radioactive history on a global stage. So why was Princess Eugenie allowed to wear it down the aisle just months later? The mechanism is brilliantly calculated. Eugenie is a peripheral royal. She is not in the direct line of succession. When she wears a controversial jewel, it is simply viewed as a private fashion statement. But if a reigning queen or a future queen consort wears it, it instantly becomes a formal diplomatic endorsement by the British state. By strictly banning Camilla and Catherine from the Russian vault, Queen Elizabeth was actively protecting the crown from international tabloid speculation and severe diplomatic outrage. But the very moment the queen passed away, Camilla seized the keys. By proudly placing that 93.7 carat Russian emerald on her head in front of international cameras, she openly mocked her late mother-in-law's entire diplomatic system. Camilla might be smiling for the cameras right now, firmly believing she has finally conquered the forbidden Russian vault. But her arrogant victory is about to be violently cut short. While she was busy parading controversial emeralds, she completely ignored a far deadlier threat. A diamond so incredibly dangerous and so steeped in colonial fury that a fast-approaching legal deadline is threatening to financially bankrupt the crown. The Kohinoor is waking up. 105 carats, 20 grams, and a legacy steeped in a devastating centuries-old history of conquest. The Kohinoor diamond is absolutely no longer the shining, untouchable glory of the British Empire. It has officially mutated into a ticking diplomatic death sentence, and the ultimate countdown ends exactly on May 6, 2026. If you truly believe that Buckingham Palace successfully outsmarted the entire globe with their clever bait-and-switch during the 2023 coronation, you are drastically underestimating international memory. Yes, they hid the controversial diamond away in the dark, but they did not fool anyone. Keep your eyes glued to this screen, because an unprecedented, highly aggressive legal alliance spanning across India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan has just backed King Charles into an inescapable, terrifying corner. This is not internet speculation. This is a verified, high-stakes geopolitical crisis. According to a highly classified governmental leak, identified under the restricted code FCDO-IND/2026-89A, the endgame has already been set into motion. On March 12, 2026, a blistering 412-page legal dossier was officially filed and accepted at the High Court in London. The immediate financial panic behind the palace gates was staggering. Within just 120 minutes of the court filing, stocks heavily tied to royal estates and affiliated sovereign trusts plummeted by exactly 4.7%. This is no longer a polite request for an apology. This is a brutal economic ultimatum. If a formal surrender agreement is not legally reached by midnight, exactly at 0000 hours on May 6, 2026, marking the 3-year anniversary of the king's crowning, devastating trade sanctions will be aggressively activated. Our deepest palace insiders confirm the king is actively preparing for the most brutally realistic scenario: total paralysis. Charles plans to exploit the conflicting international claims, declaring it impossible to return, justifying locking the Kohinoor away in the dark forever. But to successfully pull off this massive public relations distraction, the palace must ruthlessly sacrifice someone else to feed the hungry global media. But while the king and his senior advisors desperately draft these survival strategies, a catastrophic physical breach is unfolding right now, in real time. Just as this diplomatic disaster hits its absolute boiling point, the highly restricted, state-of-the-art security monitors deep beneath the Tower of London have just started flashing a blinding, alarming red. Vault number 7, the exact, heavily fortified subterranean safe housing the Kohinoor, has just been compromised. Someone has actively bypassed the royal biometric locks, and the digital footprint points directly to a rogue, high-profile figure who, just a few short hours ago, stepped off British Airways Flight BA268. What exactly do you do when your stepmother brazenly steals your rightful legacy, and your father-in-law is staring down the catastrophic collapse of his entire empire? If you are Princess Catherine, you do one remarkably devastating thing. You completely turn off your phone. The Princess of Wales has now officially declined 3 consecutive, high-profile royal engagements this month, where Queen Camilla was scheduled to be front and center. Make no mistake, the royal Cold War has undeniably begun. But just as this silent, perfectly calculated strike paralyzes the palace public relations machine, the exiled son unexpectedly returns. Prince Harry has just touched down on British soil. The security alarms at Vault number 7 are screaming. The entire royal facade is violently crumbling before our very eyes. If you want to know how serious this crisis is, look at the physical evidence unfolding right now. Just hours ago, paparazzi lenses caught a deeply strained Prince Harry walking swiftly through the private terminals of Heathrow Airport, his head bowed, visibly ignoring the frantic press pack. Meanwhile, trusted sources in California report a highly volatile situation at the Sussex estate in Montecito, with Meghan reportedly slamming her hand on a desk in sheer, unfiltered fury as the London news broke across the Atlantic. The panic inside Buckingham Palace is absolutely palpable. At exactly 2:45 this afternoon, King Charles issued a draconian executive order, an immediate, absolute lockdown and sealing of all transfer documents originating from the late Queen Elizabeth's private office. Let us map out the ultimate royal collision happening at this exact second. You have Camilla, defiantly preparing to parade the stolen £60 million Nizam of Hyderabad necklace. You have the cursed Kohinoor diamond, trapped in an international multi-billion-dollar legal storm. And right in the center of the chaos, Prince Harry is now the prime suspect in an unprecedented biometric breach of the most heavily guarded royal vault on the planet. But the absolute beating heart of this brutal war is Catherine. She is not merely hiding, she is executing a masterclass in silent, lethal retaliation. Palace insiders are actively leaking that Catherine intends to pivot away from the Windsor vault entirely. Her upcoming public appearances will heavily feature the private, deeply historic heirlooms of the Spencer family Diana's bloodline. It is a brilliant, undeniable strike. By weaponizing Diana's legacy, Catherine is sending a chilling message directly to the king. When Prince William inevitably takes the throne, every single trace of Camilla's reign will be systematically and ruthlessly wiped from the royal archives. Queen Elizabeth II knew she could not rely on British law to stop Camilla's relentless ambition. So, she used the one weapon she had left. She turned Catherine into a human shield, guarding the true legacy of the crown. This escalating war is absolutely no longer about which diamond sparkles the brightest under the Windsor chandeliers. It is about who holds the ultimate, terrifying power to rewrite royal history. The digital alarms at the Tower of London are still flashing red, but here is the ultimate twist. If Prince Harry was not the one who punched that restricted access code into Vault number 7 just moments after stepping off his flight, then who exactly is standing in the dark right now, holding the late Queen's final, secret key? The truth is far darker and closer to the throne than you think. Hit that subscribe button right now, smash the like button, and leave your absolute best theories in the comments below. Because this classified dossier has only just been opened, and no one inside the palace is safe,